With our bulletin built and functional, it's time to add a little polish to make it beautiful. In this lesson, we'll focus on refinement and finishing touches. We'll start by adding decorative elements like icons and dividers. Then we'll refine our typography and spacing for a cleaner, more readable layout. Finally, we'll introduce color accents and subtle details that bring everything together and make your bulletin shine. This session will take our bulletin from functional to a more polished, engaging, and visually clear piece of communication. As we work through refining our document, keep in mind this step is about enhancing what we already have, not starting over. Don't worry if your first attempt doesn't look perfect. This is a skill that improves with practice. And just like last time, take a break as you need. You can come back later to try the next thing, feeling refreshed. First, let's make a small adjustment to our interior master page to give it a little bit more character. We'll double-click our master page. Next, let's shrink the bar at the top and change the color. Then, let's make a duplicate and place it on the opposite side. This will give us room in the middle to add an image frame and place our parish logo. I also want to change the font and the color of our page numbers. These minor tweaks instantly give our interior pages a little more personality with little effort. Next, we'll add some color to help highlight certain sections and give our pages a little more visual variety. Using the rectangle tool, we'll draw a rectangle over our Sunday readings column. I can already tell this color is going to be too dark once we place it behind the text. Since I want to stick with the brand's color palette, I'll simply adjust the opacity to 25% using the layer panel first. Next, we need to place it behind the text. So, with the shape selected, go up to the menu at the top and select Layer, Arrange, and Send to the back. We'll repeat this process for our Mass Intentions column and for our info sections on pages 8 and 9. Let's return to the cover and start refining our text, beginning with the quote. In our last lesson, we changed the color of the text to help give it some contrast from the background, and we want to bring it out a little more. First, I want to duplicate the quote text. Next, I want to change the color of the original to black text. Next, I will bring the duplicate to rest on top of the other one. I want to ever so slightly pull off the other text to give it a shadow-like appearance, so that the black will be visible behind our lighter color. I noticed my duplicated text isn't quite white, so I made sure to click the swatch while it was selected. Also, some of the quote was hidden, so I grabbed both text frames and adjusted them so that the whole quote could be seen. Our info boxes are looking pretty good, but I want to add some more emphasis to the Lord's Day Masses and make the day of the week information bold. Finally, I will italicize the information about needing assistance with communion. Moving on to our first interior page, I would like to add a picture of our pastor. Let's move the pastor's note down a little and shift the title over a little bit to make space for an image frame. This time, I'm going to use the circular frame and insert the image. To balance the page visually, I am shifting the Sunday readings down and aligning the title with the pastor's note title. Then I'm going through the readings info, styling the text to build a little more visual distinction and make it easier to skim and find what you're looking for. But we are also going to adjust the columns so that the text won't go to the edge of the color block. Just like we did for the readings, we will add some visual differentiation into our mass intentions content. I'll speed up the video through the styling of the text in this example and the upcoming sections, as it is essentially the same as what you saw in the Sunday reading column. We're going to skip styling the tables for now and come back to it towards the end of this video. Our next section to adjust is the featured events. This page feels a bit visually imbalanced in its current state. So the first thing we're going to do is shrink the columns a little to give the text some more breathing room. The narrower columns will force the text to shift, creating a more even look. This is called white space, and it can really elevate your design. Just because you can cram something into every nook and cranny of your page doesn't mean you should. We're going to jump ahead to page 8 and 9 and get the info and staff sections cleaned up before handling the article. In these sections, we are simply building up the hierarchy as we did on the other pages. The nice thing about some of these sections is that the content is fairly evergreen, so they won't require much updating once set up. Next, we're going to add some decorative lines. First, we'll add one on the cover to divide the two info boxes. Then we'll add one down the middle of the featured events to help the large space between the columns feel visually smaller. Finally, we will add a line to divide the community devotion and the sacrament sections. Now we are ready to tackle the article. Starting with the title, we want to make it 2 lines instead of the awkward arrangement we currently have. What I'm going to do is simply highlight the text, hold down my Option key, Alt on Windows, and hit my left arrow key to adjust the space between all the selected letters. In this case, it was enough to shift the content to 2 lines, so the text is still clear and easy to read. Since the colon is a natural breaking point, I put my cursor between the colon and the letter, held down my Shift key, and hit Enter to give a soft return. Next, let's italicize the name of our author and adjust the section headings. Down here, we need to add some bullet points. To do this, we'll use the glyph browser, which lets us access special characters. This is especially useful if your parish has bilingual content or needs characters beyond standard English. Go to the menu bar and select Window, then Text, and choose Glyph Browser. In the search bar, type Bullet, and when you see the symbol you want, double-click it. This will insert the bullet right where your text cursor is blinking. I'd also like to pull out a quote from the article to highlight, much like you might see in a magazine. So I am going to shift the placement and the size of our article's text boxes and being careful to keep them in order. Now I'm going to add some decorative lines to separate the article from the pulled out quote. Next, let's copy the quote from the article we want to highlight. I'm using our title style as the basis style and adjusting the font size to make it stand out more from the body of the article. Our bulletin is looking great, but we're going to go back through it and add some color to some of our text to further pull attention to select items and strengthen the skimmability of our bulletin. Starting on page 2 with our readings and pastor's note, I noticed we have the wrong base style applied to the readings, so we will fix that and readjust the text before adding in our color. We will go section by section, adding and continuing adding color to headings and other text we want to stand out more. Here on the Featured Events page, we have a great opportunity to add a QR code for parishioners to scan and access the full parish calendar. This can be a great way to bridge the gap between printed media and digital. Returning to page 3, we are going to stylize our tables. To do this, we will use the Table Format Studio. To access, go to Window, select Table, and then click Table Formats to open the Studio. Click on the Formats thumbnail listed in the Studio to access the Settings window. Using the right side of the options, you can turn off the border, allowing the info to be aligned with no visible markings, or you can select the border, stroke, weight, and color as desired. Looking back through our pages, you can see we have taken our bulletin from a functional document to a beautiful one. Taking time to plan and set up your document makes the entire process smoother. Also, keep in mind, design is a lot of trial and error to learn what works and takes time. You aren't striving for perfection. Just little improvements over time make a huge difference. Now that our bulletin is fully built and refined, it's ready to print or share. In our final lesson, we'll cover everything you need to know about printing, exporting, and doing those last quality checks to ensure your bulletin is ready to go.